Hello and welcome back to the Hudson Hangout. Here's part two of my good friend Paul Bushnell. What are the best and worst parts of touring? Like when you go on the road with someone?
Oh, good question. Good question. Okay, I'll start with the worst parts. Right. I am a father. I have 3 children. Now, my children are a little older than you. My daughter is actually 26. My son is 18, and my younger son is 16. I spent a lot of time away from them. And in the band that I spoke about with the wonderfully memorable name, Edna Swap, in that period, my daughter was born in 1994. I spent a huge amount of time away from home between 94 and 98. And that was at a time when we didn't have cell phones. We had, pagers and stuff like that. We couldn't see people on Zoom. We were, now we're so beautifully connected. My father lives in Ireland and I see him every day and I talk to him and I see his face, and my sister, and we talk like we're in the next room. But when you're on the road, you would have to go to a payphone and with quarters, and you call and you hope that you have enough quarters to last you the amount of so missing your family is the worst part of being on the road. For me, I love hotels. I love airplanes.
Yeah.
I love being driven around by people. I love all
Yeah.
that. I love people, but, oh, are you in that bad? Oh, I love, I'd be lying if I said I didn't love it. But missing my family is the toughest part of it all. And it definitely has been made easier in this era of iPhones and Androids and whatever, where I can see them. So for the last 8 years now, I've gone every summer on tour with Tim McGraw. And do you know Tim? He's a country artist and he's a fabulous guy.
He's married to Faith Hill, correct?
He's married to Faith Hill, who I started working with before working with Tim. I actually started working with Faith 20 years ago. And I love that woman. Oh my gosh. She's so amazing. They're beautiful people and I'm so lucky to work with them. I have been touring for close to 5 months a year with Tim for the last eight years. But the beautiful thing about Tim is that he understands that we all have families. So he only books shows Friday night, Saturday night, Sunday night. And these are big shows. These could be what we call sheds, which are like, have you ever been to the Hollywood Bowl?
Yes.
The Hollywood Bowl is what you would describe as a glorious and glamorous shed. It's a big stage covered over. And the bowl doesn't have people covered. So in these sheds, the first maybe 20 rows are covered over, and then you have a hillside that goes up in the back, and you could have 50,000 people, 60,000 people out there in front of you. So we would do these big shows, but I would get to fly home on Monday morning. So I would literally sleep at an airport hotel after my show and fly home, and I'd be in my home at lunchtime on Monday. And so I didn't get to miss my family nearly as much as back in the past. The best thing about touring, there's no greater feeling than being on stage in front of people, no matter how small or how big the audience. And you are connected to the music, and you are connected to the people. And what you're doing for them is at that moment in time the greatest moment in their lives. That is insanely addicting in a way. It is fabulous. And I love it. The excitement of going out on stage and feeling the band explode into the first song is quite amazing. But let me tell you something crazy. If you were standing on the stage that I play on with Tim McGraw, if you were standing on that stage, and if the speakers were turned off, the speakers that were going out into the room, you would hear absolutely nothing except the drummer hitting his drums, because all of our speakers and all of my equipment are in these big cabinets under the stage, in these big trunks that are on wheels, and they have microphones in front of them so that the signal can go to the guy at the end of the field who's mixing the sound. But on the stage, it's completely quiet. So I wear headphones that are not unlike yours. Oops. Check this out. Those are what I wear on stage.
Oh, that's why you always see artists wearing earbuds and things.
Exactly. I don't like earbuds. Earbuds, particularly because I'm very active on stage. And when you're under lights for 2 hours, you get pretty, it's like a workout. And when you're sweating off your head and stuff like that, the earbuds they get a bit floaty in your ears. Because I think my ears expand when I play. And they get a bit floaty. And I didn't like the way they move. They start to feel like they're going to fall out or something like that. So one day I thought to myself, I'm going to put some headphones on. And it was the best thing that ever happened. I can hear the band so beautifully in my headphones. And there's a guy at the side of the stage who does a perfect mix for me and for the guitar player, different. And he makes it sound like the guitar player wants it to sound like. And for the drummer, and for everybody in the band, they get this beautiful mix where they can hear everything the way they want it. So when I walk out on stage and that sound goes in my ears, and then I feel the stage rumble, that's the best thing about touring.
You'd think, though, if the headphones, when it go boom, you just go, ah, or something.
I've actually done that before, but that's mostly when some sort of a little accident happens at the sound desk and a microphone goes wee like that.
Oh, I hate that sound.
Oh my goodness. Then you can smell the burning from your ears, as you lose another few of the little hairs in there that help you listen,
Yeah. For sure. If you could play along with any artist, living or dead, who would it be?
Oh, wow. Oh my goodness. What a question. I have to think in real terms about whether I would be so incredibly nervous, but I adore Stevie Wonder. And I think if I could play with anybody, even for a moment, actually, I will say, on a record I played called Songs from the West Coast, which is by Elton John, on that record, I play on a song and Stevie Wonder plays on the same song, but we didn't get to do it at the same time. And so I never got to meet him and I never got to hang out and say hello. I will tell you, I will share something very very personal to me, is that about maybe 6 years ago, my wife, for my birthday, she didn't tell me where she was taking me, and she took me down to the Forum, and Stevie Wonder was playing the entirety of an album called Songs in the Key of Life. When I was a young kid, when I was 10, 11, 12 years of age, I first heard music by Stevie Wonder, and Songs in the Key of Life became my favorite record and still is my favorite record. When I got to the Forum and I saw it was Stevie Wonder that was playing Songs in the Key of Life album, I just started crying. And I think I cried for about 80% of the show, because it touched my heart so deeply. And I'll tell you something else. Stevie Wonder writes great songs and great lyrics. And some of his lyrics, they talk about not so good situations, lyrics about the way that people have been treated badly in history. And that particular night, he started talking about one of those songs. And there was still bad things happening in our country and in the world. People being treated the way they should not be treated. And he started crying because the song was still necessary and relevant. And I think he was sad about the fact that that song still had meaning now, 45 years later. So I think I would really love to play with Stevie, just one song even, but I might be too nervous. He's hugely legendary. I mean, I think I would, even when I played with Elton, I got a call. Do you want to hear a quick story about that?
Sure.
I got a.
Why not?
Hey, what else would we be doing? I got a call from a producer named Pat Leonard, who said to me, I might call you 1 month from now. So please be ready on whatever date it was, the 25th of April or May or whatever it was. Sure enough, I get a phone call at about 4:30 in the afternoon, and I can hear the panic in his voice. And he doesn't really give me any details. He just said, today has been a disaster, and I need you to come into the studio right now and bring your gear, send your gear. And I was like, okay. What? And then I said, who am I going to be walking into the room to? And he said, Elton John. He might have, yes, he said Elton John. And I was like, oh my God. So because when I was your age, I had a record player on the ground beside my bed, and I was listening to Elton John and David Bowie back in 1972, 71, 73, like the early days of these artists. I went to the studio and my equipment had arrived, and I opened the door into the main recording room. And I knew that Elton had had a bad day. And Pat said, he's not in good humor. He is not happy. Because what had happened was they had tried to make a record. They tried to start a record with Elton and 3 musicians who were not musicians that are traditionally, stylistically in the same world as Elton. They were like grunge musicians from up Seattle area, and one musician from here who had not really played that kind of music before, and maybe were used to recording in a very different way. So it was a disaster, and 2 of them were asked to leave, and the drummer remained, who was fabulous, and he's a friend of mine, Matt Chamberlain, a great friend of mine. I walked into the room and I saw Elton on the other side of the room, sitting behind the piano, like he'd been waiting for me to arrive. And there's a whole conversation going on in my head. I'm like, oh my God, this is Elton John. This is the legend. This is the person I was listening to when I was a kid. And I'm getting closer and I'm getting closer to the piano. And I'm like, oh my God, what am I going to do? I hope this goes well. And I got to the piano and I stuck my hand out over the piano and I said, and he was a little taken back and he grabbed my hand and I squeezed his hand and I said, Elton, I'm so happy to be here. Come on, let's do it. And he was not expecting that. And I think he got a little shock and he was slightly disarmed. And he was like, oh, okay, well, here's a little, and he hands me a piece of paper and he's written some chords on it. And the brilliant thing about Elton, he had just written these songs. He writes his songs in the recording studio right before he records them. And he has a partner who writes the words, and Elton looks through the words, sees a title of a song that he loves, and immediately, as he's reading the lyric, he starts hearing the song in his head. And then he goes to the piano, and he writes the song, and he sings the song, and then everybody plays with him, and it's done. And that's exactly what happened for the next 3 weeks I worked with him. It was sensational. So my goodness, I talked and I really did not, I think, maybe answer your question. I hope I did. But I told you a good story, right?
Yes.
Which is good for you when you're going to be the bass player, right?
Yes.
If you get into a scary situation, just realize, okay, this person might have had a bad day. This person might be a little scared too, because this is a stranger coming into the room who, you know, they're hoping things will go well. So if you go in there with a real positive, good energy, you're going to start that thing off on a different foot. He'll forget about the fact that he's angry about something, and he'll be like, oh, this person is interesting. Let's see what happens. So there's a good bit of advice for you for when you're a top LA studio musician, okay?
Okay. Is there any type of music that you like literally can't listen to? When you start hearing it, you're just like,
oh dear. How long do you have? Can we talk until about 10 p.m.? No, I'm truly kidding you. I'm going to answer that by saying that I've had people through my life speak about other styles of music and say, oh, it's terrible. That's just terrible music. And I was guilty of that when I was younger. But what I realized after a while is that that kind of music, whatever that is, there are people who like it. You know, music is a very personal thing. So I might not actually enjoy listening to it, but it may not be terrible. I'll tell you what, I find it hard to listen to now, right now, is a lot of pop music that is written by a very small group of writers who have this formula where they get to the chorus of the song, and instead of writing a continuation of this story and making the chorus be this wonderful, growth of the song, they just repeat the word like Monday, 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 like what, and they're kind of, I feel that they're treating the listener like the listener is not smart. So if you want me to, if I answer that honestly, I think music that the songwriter seems to think that they have to knock the hook of the song into people's heads. Remember this, remember this. I don't really listen to that music because I feel that it doesn't give the listener maybe the respect that they could have if they were given a more challenging piece of music or a more challenging, and I don't mean, jazz fusion or something like that, but I mean a story, a chorus that continues the story of the song. So I don't listen to music that is unnecessarily repetitive to where it starts to give you a headache.
Yeah.
I hope that's a good answer.
Yes. Where can people find you online?
Ooh, dear, oh dear. Okay, I'll put it to you this way. I do have a presence online, but I really don't talk that much about music. I might put up some things that I enjoy musically, but mostly I just post some fun and sometimes some challenging things that I want people to think about. I am, and my wife has told me to do this, going to create a much more music-centric Instagram and Facebook, and create a Wikipedia page. I guess, in a way, Hudson, I guess what I'm saying to you sort of indicates to you that, again, it goes back to not having too much of my ego locked into being that person. I don't necessarily feel compelled to put things up that are like, hey, look at me, you know? And I do understand that a lot of people do that these days, particularly because we cannot play live now anymore. And we have to do things together, but in a remote, in a virtual way. But yeah, I guess I'm maybe a little modest about it or something like that. But since you asked me that question, I'm going to say there will be a Wikipedia page in the next couple of days, because I actually spoke with somebody about it yesterday. So there will be a Wikipedia, and there will be an Instagram, which already exists. You can find me on Instagram. That will reflect more of my musical endeavors, because I've not been able to go on tour, and because I've been stuck in my studio, which is my garage, but converted into a studio, because again, back to something we spoke about earlier, I so enjoy being beside my family now a lot. I can come in here and work, but I know that when I go indoors, my two sons will be there, my wife will be there, so that's great. So I will, I've been creating music for the last 10 months in my studio with different people. I've produced some records for people, small records, but the music is what's important, and I've loved the music. So I'll be putting a lot of that music up online in the next month, and it'll go on my Wikipedia
And
and my
then
Instagram.
and then
My
we can we can also find you on All Music, right?
Yes, there is a lot of information about me on All Music. Did you go look there? It's a good,
Yeah.
yeah, it's a good source for music.
Yeah, it
And
tells you, it tells like all the songs you've done, what you've done on them, and who the artist is.
it's true, which is, I must admit, I every now and then I have to, either print it out for somebody or copy it and send it, or create a discography for whatever reason. And first of all, I'm reminded of how old I am now, because I've been doing this a long time. If you looked all the way through that, it goes right back to 1992, I think it is.
And like below 1992, and it just blacks out the dates.
Well, below 1992, I was in Ireland, and I had not played on any records really. I had done small records, but I was not a studio musician. I was a live musician. So coming here completely flipped my role. And so you can see on allmusic.com under my name, and I think you go to like rock, it says is the category, and then you go to credits, and you will get this pages of and the lovely thing too for me is that there are artists who I started working with many years ago, and you can see that I've done multiple records with them. And I like that, because to me it's about friendships and relationships that are grown through these shared experiences.
Thank you for coming to the show.
I have loved it, and wow, amazing, what a good time. And I thank you very much. And you just keep doing what you're doing, because what you're doing is 2 thumbs up. Really good.